have had a Hold on.
What?
Our day is not over just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for November 20th. Thank you to everybody who's joining me. If you would like to watch on YouTube, you can. Just search 97.3 The Fan, and you will be able to find it there. You can also go to Twitter. At Matt Skraby is where you can go to find that, and you can go to YouTube as well. Again, search 97.3 The Fan. I meant the Skraby Show YouTube is under Matt Skraby. So there's plenty of ways to watch the show, plenty of ways to get involved. I appreciate everyone for last night's show, and it's when I go home sometimes, I got Frank Marchese in studio with me too. It's Wednesday night, so that means Inside San Diego Baseball with Sam Levitt is going to be on tonight. So Frank is in here with me. But, sometimes I go home and I think I did a really bad job on something. And so I go back and I listen to it on the way home. And I didn't do a bad job yesterday, but I don't know, Frank, if you've had this experience yet in your young radio career, but do you ever think about things that you've said on the air and just think about it over and over and over?
The best part is not only do I get that, I also think of like 10 other ways I could have said it better.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who's driving home. Oh man, that comeback 6 hours ago. I just came up with a great comeback for that. Yeah, so I was listening to last night. I did a whole thing like Paul Skeens only made 70% of possible starts, and so I went through a bunch of different metrics like and apparently it's flawed because I've been told by a few people it's flawed. So for example, Frank, I know people are probably getting tired of me talking about this because I think it's a great idea. I'm not sure where everybody's at on it, but like Paul Skeens missed so much time this year that it would be like Michael Jordan only winning 4 championships instead of 6. 4 championships is 70% of his championships. No one's calling Michael Jordan the GOAT if he wins 4 championships. The Indianapolis 500, if you only drove 70% of that race, it would be 350 miles. If you were climbing Mount Everest, instead of 29,000 feet, you would make it to 20,000 feet. So what I was trying to illustrate here is that even though Paul Skeens was great, he missed a ton of time, and those 10 starts could have made a huge difference.
They definitely could have, and especially, he missed the first 2 months of the year, right? Month and a half, first 2 months?
Yes.
Being down the minors? For a last place team.
May 23rd, I think, was his first start.
So effectively 2 months. Pitched for a last place team. Jackson Merrill was an impact day-to-day player from day one for the Padres, a team that went to Game 5 of the Division Series. I'm sorry, that has to have some sort of weight, and I'm sure you'll get to it in a second. The manager of the year, these baseball writers, they can't be serious.
Well, what do you have against? Okay, so manager of the year was yesterday. Cy Young was today. We'll get into, actually, we don't really need to get into the news of the day today. Basically, Cy Young was won by Chris Sale in the National League, Tarek Skubal in the American League. Yesterday was manager of the year, and it was Pat Murphy for the Brewers in the National League. And then Stephen Vogt for the Guardians in the American League. I personally, Frank, did not think that Mike Schilt was going to win. Now, would it have been great? Yeah, obviously. I think that he did an amazing job last year, but I don't think that he still had superstars. He still had Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Dylan Cease, Luis Ariz. Pat Murphy had some of that, but at the same time, the Brewers weren't expected to do anything. So I'm okay with how the Manager of the Year vote came around. What do you think about it?
They were the worst team. They were the best team in the worst division, the Brewers.
So you don't think that carries any weight?
No, you're in first place. You were in first place from day one. Did not have a close competitor after the 1st of May. I'm sorry. No, especially when you have a manager up. Again, Met fan here. When you have a manager up that came back, went to Game 6 of the championship series after being 11 games under 500. Made his changes, the team turned around. And you also have a guy who led the team to the second most wins in franchise history after being a game over 500 at the All-Star break. I'm sorry. No, Schilt should have won it.
Wow.
Schilt should have won that as well.
You were going to take this stance because this was the award that I really was sure that was not going to go to the Padres. I do think we do.
They got vote wrong too, by the way.
They got who should have won in the American League?
Hinch.
For the Tigers did come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the Guardians were supposed to be pretty bad too. Like no one expected the Guardians to go to where they went to.
Again, that's an awful, awful, awful division. The only reason why they didn't go further in the playoffs is because Clase completely fell apart.
Yeah, that's true. He
and
did fall
Vogt
apart.
kept pitching him.
Yeah, he did fall apart. He was the best pitcher, best closer all year. I know he didn't win the Cy Young, but I definitely think he deserved to be within the top 3, Emmanuel Clase.
No, I agree with that as well.
But I didn't think you were going to. I didn't think you were going to take that Mike Schilt stance. I just think that there's more money put into this team. There's more household names on this team. I just don't think that Mike Schilt had less to work with than Pat Murphy did.
But you also have to look at what happened over the course of this season. The Brewers were uncontested, first place all year. But they had the worst record of the 3 divisional winners. The Padres had a better record than Milwaukee, but won a wild card because they were in a division with the
Dodgers,
with the champions.
Eventual champions.
The Padres were 500 all year until they turned it around after the All-Star break. That turnaround has to start with somewhere. That turnaround happened with all the same players that were 500 in the first half. Same thing with Mendoza turning that around from 11 games.
Mendoza
under.
also had a nearly $1 billion team, right? I mean, they spent a ton of money on their team.
No,
Francisco Lindor is making a ton of money.
Right, but that was before Mendoza came in. That was not a Stearns deal. The most of the money that the Mets had on payroll was going to Scherzer and Verlander. That was almost $100 million on payroll going to Scherzer and Verlander.
See, I think you lose the argument as Carlos Mendoza when you do have that type of money to move.
I wasn't expecting Mendoza to win. It would have been nice, and I said last Wednesday that if Schilt won over Mendoza, I wouldn't feel cheated. I wouldn't feel like Mendoza got robbed. Schilt got robbed. He did. Same thing with AJ Hinch on the other end.
Hey, Frank's got a hot take. I like it. We were talking about hot takes earlier, actually, Tony and I. I'm glad that there's someone with a different opinion in this room because most of us, Chris, Tony, and I both said basically the same thing. I would love to fight for a Padres player to win. I would. But I also said this last night. I have to tell everybody when I don't feel like I'm not going to just say that a Padre is going to win because they're a Padre. I have to have a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for?
No, if you just do that,
dignity, I guess.
Your integrity's out the window.
Integrity, yes. I have to keep my integrity, which I do. I do think we have a conversation ahead of us for writers and the voting process because we talked to Matt Snyder last night and I asked him like, why is it that some of the other awards like All MLB Team, we'll just use that, is voted on by players and coaches, and the bigger awards are voted on by writers? And he said, yes, I'm biased, but the gist of his argument was we sit there and we watch everything all season long. He's up every morning looking at what happened the night before, and so he thinks that writers are in a better place to make a decision on who should be the winner of the award and who should vote. Guys like Matt Snyder, I don't have a problem with having a vote because he takes it very seriously. He does all of his homework. He knows the players that are involved, but I do think there is a different way this can be done, because Jesse said it earlier on our show. He said he looked through all the different writers that were voting on these awards, and Jesse and Tony travel to every city in this country. They see every writer in this country. Jesse didn't know who some of those people were on that list, and I think that's the problem. And I think they need different criteria for being a voter on these awards. Like, you have two different types of reporters, local and national. And I think if you're a local person, you have to be a full-time reporter covering a team. You have to be there every day in the trenches. You need to have a certain amount of games covered in person. I even think Sam Levitt could be a voter. He's there every single day. Frank says, nah.
No, and the only reason why I kind of shake my head at that is because he doesn't travel with the team. That's the only reason why I shake my head at that.
All right.
Otherwise, I would agree.
Right.
If he traveled with the team, I would agree.
All right. I can't put him in there because I did say they need to be a full-time reporter covering the team. I think that the national reporters, I think we know who they are. I think we know who the bigger national reporters are. But when I'm seeing names and I'm looking them up and I'm not seeing anything on their social media about baseball at all, then you should not be voting. No. And there are certain people out there that have a vote that I've never seen at a baseball game. And I don't understand that. I think that they really need to rethink it. They're not going to rethink it. But the BBWAA, Baseball Writers Association of America, has their strict rules. And I don't know if you can't unseat someone or what, but they have to do something about it. Because these people need to be more accountable while voting.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember, and I actually talked to him about it when I worked there. The writer from here, the only writer that did not give Jacob deGrom the Cy Young that year. He went on WFAN, and Steve Summers, that famous call. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it or heard about it.
Yes.
But Steve Summers is a very gimmicky guy, and he immediately went right into his gimmick. How can you sleep at night knowing that you gave the wrong end of whichever writer it was here hung right up on him because he didn't know?
I could tell you who it was. It was John Maffey. John Maffey did...
I didn't know that, honestly.
John Maffey did vote for Jackson Merrill. And
no, I'm talking about Jacob deGrom.
No, I know.
Okay.
He still has a vote though, and I understand because we had him on the show after that because it was crazy that people were so upset about his vote. I do like it that they make the votes available to us.
Yes.
I think that's a huge part of it because if it was anonymous, I think we would get a lot of funny business. And just scared me. Sam's outside the window doing the yap thing.
Which is what he'll be doing for the next 2
hours
after this.
He'll be doing it for the next 2 hours. He'll be talking about all this. But I don't know. I think there needs to be something done about it. Because I said this yesterday, too. I was sitting in the press box for the wild card game between the Padres and the Braves, and I was privy to conversations with some of these writers that are voting on these awards. Now, I wasn't in the conversation. I was eavesdropping, but they were sitting right next to me. So what am I going to do? Turn my ears off?
Yes.
And they were talking about how Jackson Merrill lost the award because no one knows who he is. And to me... That's
on the writers.
Like, I will say Barry Bloom did tweet out his response. Skeens was the first overall pick. He had a bigger national impact.
He had a bigger national impact because of his girlfriend, Livy Dunn.
Oh, sorry. Yes. No, I've already said so much about Livy Dunn in the last couple days. I don't want to say anything more to disparage her.
It's not to say that he's not a great pitcher. He is. I said it last week. He hasn't lived up to his expectations. He's exceeded them. But you can't deny that he is a hell of a lot more famous because of his social
I think
media
he's
girlfriend.
I think he's more famous because MLB truly
the
does want
the
to push
machine
him.
got by him.
Because he's a number 1 overall pick. It's a huge story for him to make a debut within the year that he was drafted. It's a huge story for him to be the All-Star starter.
All-Star starter means nothing. The
It did,
All-Star
though.
game. The
It did. You remember how
All-Star game
important
means
that was?
Nothing. The All-Star game means absolutely nothing now. Once they took the home field advantage away from the All-Star game, that was it. All-Star game was meaningless then.
I always thought the All-Star game was meaningless, but
It's pointless.
it is pointless. I just think he did have a big impact on baseball, Paul Skeens. We talked about him all year.
I'm not saying he
I
didn't.
literally tuned in for his debut. But
I
I
did the
believe
same
that's
thing with
because
Steven
Major League
Strasburg.
Baseball wanted us to be on the Paul Skeens bandwagon. And I know I'm sounding crazy right now. And I
No.
know I'm sounding like I'm going down the rabbit hole. And I may be going down the rabbit hole.
They put the machine behind him. They strapped a rocket to him and they sent him off.
They
And he
sent him
pitched
off.
well
Yeah, he did. He was great.
Yeah.
For 23 starts out of the 33 starts.
for a last place team.
And I guess what I said this again last night. I really like that the Pirates played themselves in this whole thing because they tried to manipulate his service time, and then he ends up winning the award. They do not get the compensation pick for that award, winning that award, and
That's another
he gets
thing.
a full year of service time. When you have draft picks involved in these things, that is a big deal.
Yes.
You are changing franchises because you're able to pick up an extra draft pick with a Rookie of the Year win. And I really, looking at this list of writers, and I've reached out to tons of people around the country too. I have not heard of some of these people. And I went to their social medias to see what they were talking about. Some of them weren't even talking about baseball. I don't know if these people are actually paying attention to the sport every single day, or if they're kind of just keeping up with it generally as they go along. This is not, at this point, a complaint that Jackson Merrill lost. This is more of I think it's time to overhaul the system that is used for giving out these awards.
Yeah, and I don't think this is not an original thought. I saw it on Twitter, but I do agree with the thought that if I were Jackson Merrill, the players voting him as Rookie of the Year would mean a lot more than the baseball writers.
Apparently it doesn't, though. Apparently that means nothing.
Well, no, but still, to get that respect and that acknowledgement from your peers, that should mean a lot. I know it doesn't come with a draft pick involved, but that's another thing that the Players Association should look at, the whole manipulating of service time. The second you get
that's why
called
they
up,
have the
it's
PPI.
right on you.
Because they want teams like the Padres to do what they did with Jackson Merrill. Bring him up to debut on opening day. The prospect promotion incentive kicks in. That's what they built that for. But I think they need to overhaul that too. Everything can always be fine-tuned as you go along. But I would like to poll some of these writers and ask them questions and see how much they really do know. All right. Good conversation, Frank, to start the show. And we are going to come back here. I also have a kind of, not a serious talk, but I do want to talk about sports betting in regards to the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. So we'll talk about that when we get back on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. leading you up into the real show, which is Inside San Diego Baseball. Sam Levitt, he'll be taking over at 7. He'll be going till 9. He'll have some thoughts about Jackson Merrill, I'm sure, and Mike Schilt. Frank has already revealed that he had a major problem with Mike Schilt being snubbed for the Manager of the Year award. I didn't agree with that. Jackson Merrill had a major problem with him being snubbed. I was talking to Sam Levitt earlier over text message, and I kind of think he was a Paul Skeens guy. I think if he had a vote, he would probably vote for Paul Skeens.
I was just going to say the mocking Sam that we have over here.
Mocking Sam, I love it. Yes. No, Sammy Levitt is not a Paul Skeens guy. I'm joking. He's in here. He's getting prep for his show, but we will forge on until Sammy Lev Inside San Diego Baseball. Now, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, the boxing match. I'm going to get serious for a second, everybody, because I'm all good with a fun match where people know it's not really for anything. It's just for entertainment value. I'm all for that. However, if regulators and betting websites are serious about education and prevention of people getting in trouble because they fall into the rabbit hole of sports betting, if regulators are really serious about it, then they wouldn't have made this event legal to be bet on. We're learning more and more about how these rules are in place and reportedly how to fight. Michael Irvin, we talked about in Quinn and Chris, he said that he had heard that in the contract, Mike Tyson was not allowed to uppercut at all. I looked at the bets beforehand, and there were bets in which the outcome could have been fudged, like what round will the fight end in, or what will be the reason the fight stopped in the third, TKO or whatever. Bets like that. I know I can hear people saying to themselves, people knew what they bet on. They knew what they were getting into. They knew that they were betting on something that could have been fake. And yes, that's true. But some people maybe don't know that this fight was more for entertainment value. And you shouldn't be betting if you don't know about the fight. But I just feel like this is a very slippery slope. And this is the issue with the sports betting industry. You can't be all about helping people and also taking everyone's money in a fight that was an exhibition. Now, sports betting, I'm not saying get rid of sports betting. I like sports betting. I think it's a good, fun way to pass the time, maybe make a little bit of money, but you're not, mostly you're not making money in sports betting. I just think there needs to be a finer line on what you can bet on, because there are a lot of people that will bet on Mike Tyson to knock out Jake Paul in the third round. They bet a bunch of money, and then that doesn't happen. And then they go in there, and now they're live betting on the boxing match, and they're saying that Mike Tyson's now going to win the 7th round, and they put the money on top of that so that they can make their money back. Yes, that is a them problem, but I also think these companies are kind of like cigarette companies back in the day, where they didn't have any warnings about what it could do to you, what it would do to your health, lung cancer. This is the infancy of sports betting, and I think over time there's going to be a lot more disclaimers, a lot more rules, and I've said this before. I don't think reading the phone numbers really fast at the end of a commercial is going to help anyone, but this was the perfect example for me of how sports betting is doing it wrong. They should not have allowed people to bet on this.
No, absolutely not. And if you wanted to bet on the night, certainly those two middle fights were fantastic. They were amazing.
Yes.
But if you honestly thought that Mike Tyson was going to win that fight, not because he was too old, not because that he wasn't ready for it, if you honestly thought that Mike Tyson was going to win that fight with how many restrictions were placed on him, and you felt confident enough to bet money, you're a fool. You should not be allowed to bet, period, because you are a danger to yourself.
Yes, but that could be said about anything. That could be said about being an alcoholic, smoking cigarettes, doing drugs. It could be said about any of that. You could go down that rabbit hole so fast.
No, I understand that, and I appreciate where you're coming from. Because
do you, Frank?
No, I don't. I just lied.
No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, it would be so foolish to bet on that fight.
Absolutely.
Win or lose, it's foolish to bet on that fight.
I'm 100% with you. This was not a real fight. And
no.
I didn't even know what to expect. I have no idea what Jake Paul could bring to a boxing ring, but
He's apparently
he's decent.
legit. Yeah.
Mike Tyson, though, I'm thinking Mike Tyson, man, he's probably still got it. That guy's one of the best boxers in the history of man and women. And he could find it just like that. But he was also placed under restrictions of no uppercuts and certain other things, which is where it gets weird for me.
There was a video I saw today where he had Paul hand down. He was started that uppercut. It was going to nail him right in the chin, and he pulled it in. It never like threw the punch. It was like,
there you go. And he wanted to, obviously. It's probably
it's
a
instinct.
reflex.
Yeah.
When Jake Paul said after the fight, I didn't want to hit him too hard. I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted people to have a fun, entertaining fight. That's why we took it the whole way. We fought every single round. That's another way that you can fudge bets. Jake Paul knew that he was going to go into this to finish the match. And if you're taking bets on when the fight's going to end, you were pretty much boxing someone into just losing their money.
Yeah, and I got really excited watching that fight in the first round. So when I saw Tyson come out, he's moving quick, he's going back and forth, he's got the combinations going, and then after that, he just didn't throw a punch to the point where in the last round, like the last 30 seconds, I'm like, bro, this is the last 30 seconds of your career. Just start flailing. Do something memorable that people can latch onto from this other than you just standing there and getting bapped every now and again. Like, just please do something, and nothing.
It doesn't really matter because
No,
so
it
many
didn't.
people watched. 108 million people tuned into this. And by the way, Netflix did have a talk with the NFL. The NFL got a little nervous about the Christmas Day games coming
Should
up
be.
here. And they asked Netflix if they would be able to handle it. And Netflix said, yes, we'll be fine. But I don't know how you believe Netflix. Every time they do a live broadcast, it ends up being terrible.
When you got a guy like Howard Stern saying Netflix has to get this right because if you mess with people's football, you're going down.
Yeah, they hate Howard Stern for putting that out there because now everybody's talking about it.
He's not wrong, though, is he?
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I think Netflix will be fine. I actually don't know what kind of announcing teams they have for Netflix.
I haven't heard anything.
I don't think that they've. I don't think that they've actually released yet who's doing that.
No.
It's probably going to be Noah Eagle Jr. Noah Eagle. Ian Eagle's son.
I'm seeing in the chat, by the way, the women's fight was the best fight of the night.
I heard that, yeah.
For me, at least, I thought it was the one before it. I think it was Barrios versus Ramos. That one went the full distance. Barrios started off strong, knocked Ramos down, I think, in the second round. Then Ramos came back like the 4th through the 9th round. He just owned Barrios. And then Barrios came back and won the fight. I thought that was, as far as entertainment value and like really, really close fight, I thought Barrios Ramos was the best one. The women's one was just highway robbery. And the reason why boxing is in the situation that it's in right now is because of the results of the women's fight. Serrano had that fight won. It was no contest, and they gave it to the Irish woman.
Yeah, boxing has always been weird for me. I've never really been into it, but I definitely have watched it. I just didn't. I watched maybe the first round of the Tyson Paul fight, and I was like, "Yep, seen enough."
Well, that was the one round you
That
should have
was
watched
it.
out of that.
That was it. All right. So thanks for everybody letting me get on my soapbox and talk about betting. I think it's very important for people to understand the dangers of betting because I know that people have DM'd me saying that they had betting problems and that talking about it is a good way to educate people on what not to do, which is don't ever chase your losses.
Exactly.
Don't ever chase your losses. All right, when we get back, I promised you this earlier, but we got into that whole conversation with Paul Skeens and Jackson Merrill. Roki Sasaki, Jim Bowden of The Athletic, was on Foul Territory TV. I think Sam might be using this a little bit later. We'll talk about it on the other side, 97.3 The Fan. interesting talks we've had here in the break. I know you're going to have a great inside San Diego baseball. I know that for sure. I was telling the guys just now, I'm on Bumble and Hinge, which are dating apps, and I'm not getting any matches. Now, that's not okay. That's not bad. I don't mind not getting any matches. I honestly probably don't spend enough time on the apps to actually get matches. But I also thought the other day when I was driving home, why don't I just delete the apps until after the holidays? Because right now is maybe the worst time to meet someone.
Yeah, that's why I've been considering going back into the dating pool, and I'm not starting until after Valentine's Day, honestly.
You're not starting till after that's a long time. Now, I mean, if I met someone and it was right, then yes, I would go for
yeah,
it.
exactly.
But it's something that I don't know. I keep feeling like I'm better off alone, more and more and more. And I'm not saying that because I'm like sad about it or anything. I just am a weird person that likes. I don't know. I'm just a weird person, is all I'm trying to say.
No,
but
we're not weird. We're just trying to find something. Yeah.
I went to the This is what I should have underneath me right now. Very soft
honestly.
violin. This is me every single night when I think about my life as I'm staring out the window. I just think, what is happening with my life? I don't know what my next move is.
Same.
All right.
Actually the same.
Yeah. Anyway, that was just a fun little dating story. I have actually gone out with someone years ago, and we met after Thanksgiving, and we bought each other Christmas presents, and then she broke up with me after New Year's, and so that's why I never want to be with anyone in the Christmas time again.
And that's why I'm starting after Valentine's Day.
You know what, Frank? You're a smart guy.
I'm a genius in my own mind.
Yes, a genius in your own mind is correct. All right, Roki Sasaki. He is going to be posted, as we know now, after the December 2nd deadline. Most likely. Hasn't been confirmed yet. But that's good for the Padres because they'll have their full amount of money to spend on Roki Sasaki. Jim Bowden of The Athletic, though, he was on Foul Territory TV. Frank, it's up there. I got it for you. I don't know if you're ready for it.
Yes.
And he was talking about a few weeks ago how there's no way that Roki Sasaki goes anywhere but the Dodgers. But he's kind of changed his tune. Here is Jim Bowden.
I mean, look, I'm just telling you what I learned in talking to a lot of people that are in the know with the player himself, who, by the way, is going to make the decision. You know, he's not one of those players that's going to go where Wasserman and Joe Wolf, his agent, are going to send him. He's going to make his own call. But the sense I get from everyone is that the narrative of him going to the Dodgers, it's way more likely he signs elsewhere than he signs there. And I'm not saying at the end of the day, you know, perhaps he changes his mind. Perhaps Ohtani and Yamamoto can convince him. But if based on what I'm hearing, I would say 85% chance he does not sign with the Dodgers. I mean, look, I'm just telling you.
85% chance he's not going to be signing with the Dodgers. Now, I don't know where he gets the 85%, but I can see this because we've already seen a couple reports out saying that he doesn't really want to be in the shadow of Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani. He also doesn't want to compete for endorsements, which he would have to compete for endorsements in a place like the Dodgers. Here with the Padres, I mean, there are some players that are ahead of him, but I'm sure they could find some endorsements for him. He also seems like a guy who wants to come to a place that's not so I guess not such a big market like in LA or in New York. He'd rather come to San Diego or one of those other small Arizona. I don't know. I'm just going to say San Diego because he can come here. He can kind of be himself, get acclimated to the American way of life. And I think this is good news. It's definitely good news, obviously, if he's not going to go to the Dodgers. I want a guy like him to not want to go to the best team in baseball because I want a guy like I want him to come in and want to prove something to everyone that he's his own guy. He's not Yamamoto. He's not Ohtani. And in San Diego, it's perfect for him. He could be on the West Coast. He'll be a flight away from going back home. I think it's a no-brainer for him to be a Padre.
Yeah, and there's plenty of reasons why coming here would be better. You've got, if the connection between him and Yu Darvish is as strong as everyone says it is, Darvish is here for what, another 4 years?
Something like
three,
that, yeah.
3-4 years.
Yeah.
So you've got your mentor here that can lead you through every step of the way. It's a competitive team. You're going to be in the playoffs, or at least you're going to be in the fight for the playoffs. And it's another place that you can go to that's not New York, Los Angeles, or in the case of Imanaga, Chicago. And it'll allow you to develop without having the bright lights of the media or the city all over you if you have a bad start.
Yeah, and we would give him that time
Absolutely.
here in San Diego to be, in LA they had Yamamoto for not that long during the regular season. Nope. He made his way back in the playoffs, but he was kind of hidden away from everyone's view. We're just going to keep talking about Roki Sasaki until he makes his decision. And as Jim Bowden said, and as Sam reminded me last week, it is his decision. It's not anything that the Padres can do other than tell him how much they want him in a Padres uniform. He's the one who's going to decide. So we'll keep bringing you the news as we go along. Well, Frank, we have a Daily Gripe coming up in a little bit, but I was going to ask you about Around the Horn. Have you heard that Around the Horn is going to be ending after 23 years?
Yes, I did. Was it next summer? Is when it's
2025. Yes, ending in 2025 after a 23-year run. But Around the Horn is that show on ESPN that's a midday show, and it has 4 different writers, sports writers from around the country, and there's a host, and he gives them prompts, and then he gives them points as they go. But I've never really liked this show just because I didn't ever understand the point structure, which I guess is the joke of the show. There is no point
More
structure.
or less, yeah.
But then they eliminate people as they go through the show because they don't have as many points. But we have seen some of the better personalities in this, like Woody Page.
Mm-hmm.
He's great. Bob Ryan was great. There's a lot of Kevin Blackenstone is the one I was talking about earlier today.
Tim Kalashaw from Dallas.
Yes. And then you got Courtney Cronin from Chicago. I think this is, I don't know if I'm sad or if it's time. I think it's time more so than I'm sad. I haven't watched the show in years.
Oh, and I'm same way. I used to DVR Around the Horn and Pardon the Interruption, PTI, every single day. And I'd watch them every single day. And yeah, I just haven't paid attention to it much. I've seen the set had a nice little upgrade at some point. I don't know when that was, but it's, sometimes it's all good things must come to an end, and this is the end.
This is the end. I'm not going to continue to sing
Please
that.
don't.
Since you're in New York, Frank, did you hear Michael Kay might be done in New York on radio?
Don't tease me.
I know. His contract's coming up here in December. Apparently, he's had zero discussions or any. He's had 0 discussions.
Please don't tease me.
Why? You want him gone?
Yes.
Why?
Because he's awful.
You a Don LaGreca fan?
He's my uncle actually knows Don LaGreca. He worked at.
This is very New York. My uncle actually knows Don LaGreca.
No, he worked at Sports Phone. For those of you who don't know what Sports Phone is, it was for gamblers before the internet. You would call up a phone number. You would call up a phone number, and somebody would read you the scores from all the games, and then just disconnect the line. But that's where they met. Anyway, continue.
So he hasn't talked with ESPN New York, and they haven't given him a contract or anything like that. I don't know. I've never really listened to his radio show. All I know is that he takes a lot of time off during the summer. He doesn't show up for the show at all. Sam, what do you got on? You're sitting here like you want to talk.
Oh, he is. Like, you got the mic up.
He's like
he
he's
made
like
the- he
sitting
made
with
the
his
motion,
right
and-
here, looking at me like, "Are you going to come to me soon?"
What if?
Oh,
How about you?
Am I on?
Yeah, see you.
Here's my wild prediction. And maybe we should we be talking about this as a non-Odyssey station we're talking about?
yeah, I don't.
Well,
care.
the ship has sailed.
The ship has sailed.
What if Mike Francesa
No.
returned
Oh gosh! Please no!
again?
No, we got
Please
the,
no!
his podcast is fine. No, listen, you have not lived until you've heard like a prime Mike Francesa Jets rant. He's been really good. He has been in very rare form as of late with the Jets being as bad as they are.
I just it goes for any place in the country. I'm so tired of people getting jobs when it's clearly past their time. Like
He's on Bet Rivers. He works from home. He's happy where he is. He won't go.
I know.
He won't go to.
I don't know. He may. He
No, I don't
loves
think he
himself himself.
I don't
so,
think he will.
I don't know. Have you ever met Mike Francesa?
I saw him once, and
It's
I
not
tried.
meeting him.
No, I saw him once, and I was walking back and forth trying to learn how to do those sports minute things.
Okay.
I looked for any reason to go back to my desk just to wait for him to stop talking to John Minko so I can introduce myself and say hello, and he never did.
Oh, he never did.
I
Think it was
finally
by
ran.
design.
I ran out of enough reasons to try to meet him,
We have those sports minutes on
We do.
here.
Yeah, we
usually
do.
usually in the morning.
and they
Oh, we
are.
haven't been in the afternoon, I think.
And as someone who built them, they are awful. They're awful right
yeah,
now.
they sound like they're
I
difficult.
like them. Well, we get Boomer doing them a lot, and I like Boomer. So
I do like Boomer too. You
Love
know, they
Boomer.
have a show on Fridays after the Skraby Show. It's
Boomer and Valenti.
yeah, Boomer and Valenti.
Why do I know that and you don't?
I thought there was another name for it, but Boomer and Valenti is the name
I
for
think
it.
it's Fridays to talk football.
Yes, but I
What is
love
that? 7
Boomer.
8 p.m.
Yes, 7 to 8 p.m. I love Boomer. I think Mike Valenti's hilarious because he just takes random shots at the teams as he's going along. But Boomer really does give great insight, I think. I mean, he was
Boomer's
an NFL
great.
quarterback forever. And I got to meet him when we as a show went to Trevor Hoffman's induction at Cooperstown. We ended up doing a show in the WFAN studios. And when we were in there, this was like very early on in my radio career. It was like Tiki just walking by, Boomer
wild,
just
isn't
walking
it?
by. It's really strange.
I
It's
know
really
that
strange.
exact feeling. It is wild.
He's getting excited. He
Oh,
won't-
we have Stephen Woods walking by here.
but I see
That is
Woods every day.
wild.
I see Woods every day. I don't get to see Boomer Esiason every single day.
But Dominic Silva in the chat, by the way, he brought up Skraby brought up New York stuff, not us.
I did bring up New York stuff. I brought up Mike Francesa or
Michael K.
Michael K.
That's
yeah, I
You
did bring up
can't
Michael K.
blame us on this one.
All right, I think it's time for the gripe.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
All right, this comes from. I hope one of my friends is listening because it's about them. But it really bothers me when this person texts me asking for advice. And then I give them advice and they never take the advice. It really bothers me. And I'm saying it on the radio right now because I'm done with it. This person knows who they are and they know that they do this. And if you're going to ask for advice, you better be able to handle taking the advice. You better be able to do that, but this person can't do it. So there's my gripe. My gripe is please stop asking me for advice when you're actually not going to listen to any part of that advice. There it is. Frank, you got any gripes today?
No, actually, I woke up gripeless this morning.
Gripeless? That's not a New Yorker.
Well, I mean, I could say what I want about the traffic, but that won't help, and I'll just repeat myself over and over again.
I actually think you bring up a really interesting topic
Oh, what's that?
about advice.
Okay. What about
How
it?
much should you trust other people's advice?
Depends on how well you know them.
But nobody knows the situation or you as well as you know yourself.
No, that's true. If I needed advice and I asked Tony and Chris, I would trust them because I mean, we've spent basically.
How do you know that the person offering advice truly has your best interest at heart?
I wouldn't ask someone who I didn't think would have my best interest in mind. I keep the advice givers in my life on a very small list. What do you think? Do you think that you need
have
to?
no opinion. I love everything and everyone.
Oh, for God's!
I thank you for saying that, Frank. He's never had an issue with anyone in life.
Nope.
He
certainly.
is Sam
I have
Levitt.
no issues with anyone, anything. I love everyone.
Yeah, no, you certainly do, especially during the second inning of an afternoon home game at 8 o'clock. You certainly have no problem
seen
with anybody.
that version before. That version is a little perturbed with what's going on in life. I gotta do the update. All right.
Studio updates are the bane of Sam's existence.
Jacob called you Gandhi. That was hilarious. He said, "Okay, Gandhi," to Sam Levitt. That's it for the Skraby Show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Tomorrow, I don't have one, but right up next, I thought it was Thursday. Right now, I'm going to hand it over to Sam Levitt. Inside San Diego Baseball next on 97.3 The Fan.